The Grand Interstellar Council was buzzing with noise and energy, the kind of energy that comes when powerful civilizations gather in one place. Beings from dozens of star systems, each with their own shapes, colors, and customs, had gathered in the enormous chamber. Their voices mingled in strange melodic harmonies that human ears struggled to follow. Some moved gracefully, their limbs floating as if they didn't belong to gravity at all. Others were large, armored, and imposing, and their mere presence made the room feel smaller. Every delegate had come to show power, to make sure that everyone else remembered who was important in the galaxy. In the midst of this, the humans sat quietly. They were few compared to the massive delegations of other civilizations, their ships relatively small, and their uniforms simple. Some of the other delegates noticed and snickered, exchanging glances that clearly said, "These people are insignificant." No one spoke to them directly, but the whispers carried. Humans had always been underestimated at the Council. For decades, their requests for trade, exploration, or alliances had been met with laughter or polite dismissal. Despite the mocking, the human delegation stayed calm. They had learned long ago that the galaxy loved to underestimate humans, and that anger or defensiveness never helped. One human leaned forward slightly, resting their hands on the sleek metallic table in front of them. They observed the other delegates carefully, their eyes tracking movements, gestures, and patterns. Even in their quiet demeanor, there was a sense of focus, as if every action and word was being stored and analyzed. The session began with the usual formalities. Speeches were made, alliances were subtly reinforced, and trade negotiations were discussed. When it was finally Earth's turn to speak, the room grew quieter. The humans began their presentation, outlining their progress in space exploration, colonization of nearby systems, and technological advances. Every sentence was factual, every chart precise. But some of the older, more powerful civilizations barely listened. They muttered to each other, shaking their heads in disbelief. A large, insect-like delegate from one of the older star systems leaned toward their companion and whispered, loud enough for others to hear, "These humans think they can play with the big leagues." Another, a serpentine being with glistening scales, laughed softly and added, "They have barely scratched the surface of the stars. What can they possibly offer?" The humans noticed, but they did not react. Instead, they continued their report. The tone of their speech did not change. They spoke of their colonies, their fleets, and their technology, and they spoke of cooperation and peace. There was no threat in their words, no prideful boasting. But beneath the calm voice, there was a subtle strength that not everyone could see. It was the strength of a species that had survived against impossible odds, that had endured centuries of neglect and mockery, and that had quietly learned to prepare for the unknown. Outside the council chamber, observers recorded the session. Some were curious. Some were amused. Others, particularly the more experienced delegates, felt a flicker of caution, though they would not admit it openly. The humans were small, yes, and their fleets were modest compared to the massive armadas of the other civilizations. But there was something in their presentation, a quiet confidence, that did not fit the image of a weak species. As the session went on, the mocking grew bolder. Some delegates interrupted with questions that were designed to humiliate rather than clarify. How can Earth protect its colonies against a real threat? One asked with a sneer. Your fleets are tiny. Your technology is outdated compared to even our minor ships. The human representative answered politely, providing clear data, calculations, and timelines. Every question was met with facts, not anger. The calmness itself was unsettling to the others. Some of the humans' colleagues watched closely. They saw the subtle movements, the careful words, and the calm reactions. It was clear to them that humans had learned to handle situations like this for a long time. They had practiced patience, observation, and strategy, not only in warfare, but in negotiation. And they had learned one key truth. Those who mocked or underestimated them often failed to see the full picture until it was too late. Meanwhile, in the crowded hall, young observers from other civilizations whispered nervously to one another. "Are they really that weak?" one asked. "It seems like they have nothing," another replied. But there was hesitation in their voices, a faint awareness that humans were not easily read, and that even the quietest species might hold surprises. The human delegation finished their report and remained seated. The room erupted in murmurs, some scoffing, some intrigued, but no one offered real praise. The humans simply waited for the session to continue. They did not demand recognition. They did not react to the insults. Every mockery, every sneer, every whispered joke against them was absorbed, stored, and remembered. By the end of the session, the humans were dismissed politely, but with little respect. Delegates returned to their own councils, laughing and chatting as if Earth had been nothing more than a minor curiosity. Only a few of the more perceptive beings noticed the subtle glances between the humans themselves. No words were exchanged, but there was understanding. Something had shifted, quietly and invisibly, in the way humans moved, in the way they left the chamber. Later, as the human delegation returned to their ships, they did not speak of revenge or retaliation. They spoke of preparation, of the work that would continue in silence. They had long understood that the galaxy judged strength not by words, but by actions. And they had been acting for a long time, quietly building, quietly planning, and quietly waiting for the right moment. Outside the council world, the stars stretched endlessly. Humanity's fleets were small, almost invisible against the dark backdrop, but each ship carried the product of decades of effort, study, and innovation. They were ready for anything, even if the rest of the galaxy did not realize it. That night, the humans gathered in their private quarters, not to celebrate or mourn, but to review their plans once more. They studied charts, discussed logistics, and refined calculations. Every possible scenario was considered. Every weakness, both in their own systems and in potential adversaries, was analyzed. By the time sleep came, it was light and short, for there was much work to be done. And in the grand halls of the council, far above, the other civilizations continued their chatter. They mocked and belittled, confident that nothing could come from such a small and seemingly inexperienced species. They could not know, not yet, as humanity's calm, measured demeanor hid a capability far greater than any of them had imagined. The night passed quietly, but beneath it, the foundation for an event that would shock the galaxy was being laid. By dawn, the first whispers began. Sun sensors detected subtle shifts in Earth's fleets. They were still small, still modest, but something was different. Patterns emerged, movements that were precise, coordinated, and deliberate. To most, it meant nothing. To a few older observers who had seen the rise and fall of species, it was a sign that humans had not been as powerless as they seemed. The council would soon realize that mocking humans had been a mistake. But at that moment, in the early hours before the sun rose on distant worlds, humanity remained quiet, calm, and unassuming. The galaxy did not yet understand what was coming, but one day it would. And that day, when it arrived, would begin not with shouting, not with bluster, but with the silent precision that humans had been perfecting for decades. The galaxy had a long memory, and so did humanity. For centuries, Earth had been laughed at, dismissed, and underestimated. Other civilizations often thought of humans as a minor, insignificant species, incapable of serious influence beyond their tiny star system. But humans remembered every slight, every insult, and every dismissal. These memories did not fuel hatred, at least not in the dramatic sense. They fueled determination, patience, and preparation. Decades before the council meeting, humans had learned to act quietly. While other civilizations flaunted their fleets and bragged about their technology, humanity worked in shadows. Scientists experimented with new propulsion systems in secret. Engineers built ships that were stronger, faster, and smarter than anyone outside Earth suspected. Diplomats forged alliances quietly, sometimes in secret, sometimes through intermediaries, always carefully. The galaxy's strongest races didn't notice because they were too busy looking down on humans to see the truth. The memories of humiliation were not just stories, they were lessons. When humans' requests were denied or laughed at, they studied the reasoning behind the dismissals. Why did a species think humans were weak? Was it because their fleets were smaller? Because their colonies were fewer? Or because humans did not brag? Each answer guided humanity's next step, shaping strategies that no one else would predict. Some of the galaxy's observers thought humans were foolish for accepting repeated mockery. Why not strike first? They wondered. Why not respond with aggression? But humans saw strength differently. They believed in preparation, not empty posturing. They believed in patience, not impulsive action. And above all, they believed that real power did not need to be announced. It revealed itself at the right moment. In hidden laboratories and spaceports across Earth and its colonies. Humans were busy building what others assumed they could not. Vast fleets were constructed, but not with the intention of showing them off immediately. Ships were designed to be adaptable, able to operate in multiple environments and evade detection. Advanced energy shields and propulsion systems were tested, refined and perfected. Every failure was recorded and corrected quietly, without anyone outside the project knowing. Training was another key. Humans developed crews that could operate in perfect coordination. They drilled endlessly, not for pride, but for competence. Simulations were run for years, creating scenarios that other species would not even consider. Every human pilot, engineer, and strategist learned to anticipate unexpected events and respond with precision. The galaxy laughed at the simplicity of human ships, but those who underestimated the humans would eventually learn how dangerous they could be. Humanity also built alliances quietly, sometimes with smaller civilizations that had been ignored or oppressed by the bigger powers. These alliances were subtle, based on trust and mutual benefit, not grand promises or loud declarations. The galaxy's elite did not notice because they were too busy underestimating both humans and the civilizations they connected with. But these small partnerships created networks that were unseen but powerful. Every ally contributed knowledge, resources, or support in ways that could become crucial at the right time. The human approach to technology was also unique. While others relied on sheer size and destructive power, humans focused on efficiency, intelligence, and adaptability. They developed sensors that could detect movement across vast distances, algorithms that could calculate outcomes before anyone else could, and systems that allowed ships to move in perfect synchrony. Where other civilizations saw limitations, humans saw opportunity, and they exploited every opportunity quietly, without anyone outside their ranks knowing. The memories of past humiliation were not a burden. They were fuel. Humans recalled every meeting where they had been mocked, every council where their proposals had been laughed at. But instead of anger, these memories created a determination that no one could see. In quiet rooms filled with charts, models, and simulations, humans repeated the lessons of history. We will not be laughed at again, they told themselves, not as a threat, but as a promise. Meanwhile, the rest of the galaxy continued as usual, oblivious. Powerful species focused on competition with each other, on displays of dominance, and on asserting control over systems they thought were strategically important. They did not look closely at humans because humans seemed irrelevant. It was a mistake, but one that humans had learned to exploit. in human colonies on distant planets. Children were taught the same lessons, though in a less formal way. They learned about exploration, discovery, and problem solving. They learned that every challenge was an opportunity to grow, and that every setback was temporary if approached with patience and intelligence. These lessons were passed on quietly, without fanfare, building generations of humans who understood the value of preparation and observation. As the council meeting approached, the human fleets were ready. Every ship had been tested, every crew trained, and every plan rehearsed. The galaxy saw only a small, seemingly insignificant presence arriving at the council world, and the mocking continued. Delegates assumed the humans had little to offer. They did not see the invisible threads of preparation stretching across the galaxy, linking human colonies, fleets, and allies in a network that no one could fully understand, even within the human delegation. There was no arrogance. They did not boast. They did not declare that the galaxy had underestimated them. Instead, they remained calm, observing every detail, listening to every word, and waiting for the right moment to act. The calm itself was part of their strength. Other species, accustomed to bluster and display, often mistook quietness for weakness. But humans had learned the opposite. Silence could be a shield, a strategy, and a signal all at once. At the council, when humans presented their progress, the room reacted with laughter, sneers, and disbelief. Some delegates interrupted with mocking questions, assuming that the humans would falter. But humans answered each question carefully, with precision, without anger, and without over-explaining. Every answer was factual, every detail correct. The calmness was unnerving. While others shouted or gestured to assert dominance, humans spoke softly, with clarity, showing confidence that did not require noise. Outside the council chambers, young observers from other civilizations whispered nervously. They had expected the humans to crumble, but the calm, precise responses made them hesitate. Something about the way humans handled themselves, their quiet preparation, and their careful strategy seemed different from what they had been taught about small species. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it was there. The humans themselves knew that the galaxy did not yet understand their full capability. They had long ago accepted that most species would not see the truth until it was too late, and that was acceptable. Their strategy relied on timing, on patience, and on observation. They did not need recognition or approval. They only needed the right moment, the moment when their preparation could speak louder than the mocking words of the council. When the session ended, humans left the chamber quietly. No one applauded. No one acknowledged their presence beyond a few polite nods. The other delegates returned to their own councils, confident that they had seen the final display from Earth. They did not realize that the humans had already taken mental notes, memorized patterns, and assessed weaknesses. Every insult, every dismissal had been absorbed and turned into a tool. Back on their ships, humans reviewed the day's events. They discussed strategy, potential outcomes, and what needed further preparation. There was no anger in their words, only focus. Every person knew their role. Every crew member understood the larger plan. The memories of past mockery were present, but as motivation, not bitterness. They knew that preparation and intelligence were more powerful than any display of strength or aggression, and so humanity continued to build quietly. The galaxy still laughed. Other civilizations still underestimated them. But with each passing day, humans grew stronger, smarter, and more coordinated. Every lesson from past humiliation, every mistake observed in other civilizations, was cataloged and used to refine plans. They were patient, careful, and deliberate, always working toward a moment the galaxy could not yet imagine, even as humans went about their work. The Council and other civilizations assumed they were irrelevant. They focused on their own rivalries, and competitions, never suspecting that a species so small in appearance had prepared itself for a day when the entire galaxy would be forced to acknowledge them not by nightfall. Humans gathered in quiet rooms aboard their ships. They reviewed charts, simulations, and strategies once again. They did not boast. They did not seek attention. Their goal was not immediate recognition. It was readiness. Every fleet, every crew, every system was aligned and prepared for action when the time came. And so, while the galaxy slept, confident that humans were insignificant, the foundation for a quiet revolution was being laid. Humanity's memories of mockery, their determination born from years of dismissal, and their patient preparation were quietly converging toward a moment that would change everything. When the time came, the galaxy would realize that the humans they had laughed at were not weak. They were ready. They were organized. And they had waited, silently, for the right moment to show that preparation and The morning after the council session, the galaxy expected nothing unusual. Delegates returned to their routines, confident that humanity had shown only what they always had, a small, unremarkable presence with limited influence. No one expected surprises from Earth. No one except the humans themselves, as the first light of distant suns fell across spaceports, sensors, and communication arrays. Technicians on various worlds began to notice something strange. A few human vessels, stationed at key observation points near the Council, were no longer where they should have been. At first, it was dismissed as a reporting error. Some assumed the ships had moved for routine exercises or patrols. But then, reports came in from multiple colonies, systems, and fleets. All of the humans' operational vessels, from the smallest scouts to the largest warships, had vanished. Panic spread slowly at first, in whispers and confused communications. Observers checked and rechecked their data, certain there must be a technical glitch. Human ships had always been easy to track with standard sensors, yet the readings showed nothing. No engine signatures, no power fluctuations, no warp activity, nothing. It was as if the humans had disappeared from existence. The initial reactions ranged from curiosity to outright disbelief. Some younger or less experienced delegates giggled nervously, convinced it was a trick or a temporary malfunction. Perhaps they have finally admitted they cannot compete, one commented. Others frowned, their instincts sensing that something more profound was happening. The disappearance was precise, coordinated, and unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Within the Council itself, chaos began to grow. Delegates hurried into emergency sessions, trying to make sense of what was happening. Messages were sent to every corner of the galaxy, demanding explanations. Where are Earth's fleets? One demanded. Have they launched an attack? Have they been destroyed? There was fear creeping into voices that normally carried only arrogance. The notion that humans could disappear so completely and suddenly was impossible. Yet the data confirmed it. The humans themselves were quiet. In their hidden bases, fleets, and colonies, the crews and commanders moved with a calm efficiency. No alarms rang. No panic spread. Every member of humanity's forces knew what was happening and why. This was not an accident, a malfunction, or a retreat. This was deliberate. Every ship had moved to predetermined, secret coordinates, hidden from sensors and prying eyes. The fleets were safe, organized, and ready. From the perspective of the galaxy at large, the disappearance was frightening precisely because no one could understand it. The larger fleets of older civilizations were visible and predictable, but humans had mastered the art of stealth and coordination. For decades, they had been perfecting systems that allowed vessels to move undetected, to hide within nebulae, behind planetary shields, and even in the gravitational distortions of uncharted systems. Now, the result of that preparation was being revealed, not through attack, but through absence. The Council was in uproar. Delegates demanded explanations from their own intelligence networks, scanning every possible coordinate for human activity. Ships were launched to the last known positions of Earth's fleets. Every sensor array, every deep space probe, and every observation satellite was employed, yet no sign of humanity was found. It was as if the entire species had vanished into thin air. Some delegates refused to believe the reports. They must be hiding nearby, one insisted. They cannot have moved so far so quickly. It's impossible. But as hours turned into a day, the impossible became undeniable. Humanity had not simply disappeared. They had repositioned themselves in ways no one could track. The precision of their disappearance was deliberate, almost artistic. Every fleet, every vessel, every colony ship had been accounted for. Yet nowhere could they be located. While confusion grew among the galaxy's powers, humanity's planners monitored the reactions carefully. They did not seek chaos for its own sake, nor did they wish to instill unnecessary fear. They simply observed, noting how the other species responded to unexpected events. Patterns were recorded, mistakes were predicted. The reactions of those who had once mocked humans became valuable intelligence, showing how arrogance could blind even the most powerful civilizations. In the absence of visible fleets, speculation ran wild. Some feared an imminent attack, imagining humans had hidden to launch strikes on key worlds. Others thought Earth must have been destroyed in a catastrophic event. Rumors circulated about impossible technologies or weapons, feeding the anxiety. But all of it was wrong. Humanity's intent was not aggression. Their goal was demonstration proof that preparation, intelligence, and quiet coordination were more powerful than boastful fleets and arrogant threats. On human ships, crews continued their routines. Pilots checked instruments, engineers ran. Systems and commanders held briefings. Every movement was practiced, precise, and rehearsed. There was a sense of calm confidence that contrasted sharply with the growing panic across the galaxy. Humans had long understood that preparation and patience could achieve more than impulsive action, and this was the culmination of decades of disciplined effort. Even as the galaxy speculated and panicked, humans used this time to finalize plans. For the next step, every ship was positioned according to carefully calculated coordinates. Every fleet formation reviewed, every communication system tested. Nothing was left to chance. The galaxy believed humans had vanished. In reality, humanity had simply concealed their presence in a way that no one else could. As the day progressed, some of the older, more experienced delegates began to grow uneasy. They had witnessed empires rise and fall, technologies emerge and vanish, and species underestimate others at their own peril. Something about humanity's sudden disappearance did not fit any known pattern. The smaller, less experienced species laughed and mocked, but the veterans began to question their assumptions. Humans were not merely disappearing, they were showing that they could act beyond prediction, and that alone was enough to shift the balance of power. Meanwhile, messages flowed through human networks, confirming every movement. Colonies checked in silently, confirming their positions, and fleets confirmed the status of each vessel. The coordination was flawless. No one could trace the fleet movements. No one could predict where the humans would be. And yet every member of humanity's forces knew exactly where to go and what to do. It was not luck. It was preparation. By the evening, the Council could no longer deny the truth. Humanity had vanished from observable space. Delegates were frantic, trying to interpret the implications. How could a species so small, so long, underestimated, suddenly disappear with such precision? Was it the beginning of an attack or a withdrawal? The ambiguity itself was unnerving. The galaxy had never experienced a disappearance of this scale and exactness, and uncertainty bred fear. Some of the galaxy's most cunning observers attempted to track subtle energy traces, hoping for a clue. They checked warp signatures, communications, and energy fluctuations across vast distances. Still, nothing appeared. Humanity's presence was invisible, yet undeniably real. Even the most sophisticated surveillance could not locate a single ship. The more they searched, the more they realized how thoroughly humans had planned. The disappearance was not random. It was a demonstration of perfect strategy. Humans, for their part, maintained quiet discipline. There was no celebration. There was no arrogance. They continued with calm precision, knowing that the galaxy's reaction was a byproduct of their planning, not the objective itself. The fleet was ready, the colonies secure, and every person knew their role. The humans were confident, not because of fear or superiority, but because of preparation, coordination, and trust in one another. By nightfall, the galaxy remained in chaos. Rumors of attacks, secret weapons, and impossible technologies spread rapidly. Some civilizations considered preemptive strikes, afraid that humans were preparing for war. Others tried to broker alliances against Earth, hoping to counter an unseen threat. But all of it was based on speculation, not reality. Humanity had no intention of starting conflict. They had merely demonstrated that preparation and unity could achieve something far beyond what others expected. The disappearance of the fleets was complete. Humanity had become, for the first time in history, invisible to the galaxy's gaze, and yet their presence was everywhere they wanted it to be. They had vanished in a way that was undeniable, deliberate, and calculated, forcing the galaxy to recognize that small size and perceived weakness were not the measures of power. And so, humanity waited. The galaxy speculated, panicked, and planned. Humans observed, refined, and prepared. One day, the galaxy would understand the significance of this moment. For now, it was a quiet testament to what patience, intelligence, and preparation could achieve. The fleets had vanished, but humanity's strategy was alive and active, ready to reveal itself when the time was right. The stars continued to shine, indifferent to the chaos below. And somewhere within those hidden coordinates, humans smiled, quietly, knowing that the moment of revelation was approaching, a moment that would forever change the way the galaxy saw them. The disappearance of humanity's fleets had thrown the council into chaos. Delegates hurried through massive corridors, voices raised, some in disbelief, some in outright fear. The room that had once been filled with confident discussions and polite dismissal was now tense, crowded with whispers of panic. Every species present had its own version of the story, and every version was more alarming than the last. "Where are they?" demanded one of the larger delegates, a towering figure whose limbs glimmered with metallic scales. How could they vanish without a trace? Their voice carried over the chamber, echoing like the rattle of heavy machinery. Others nodded in agreement, murmuring their fear to one another. For some, it was hard to believe that a species they had long underestimated could perform such a feat. For others, the impossibility of it was terrifying. Messages and signals raced across the galaxy. Every system that had humans present was contacted repeatedly, and everyone reported the same thing. Nothing. There were no ships, no signals, no activity. Intelligence networks, usually capable of tracing fleets, even through extreme stealth technology, found nothing. The humans had become ghosts in the galaxy, and that alone was enough to unsettle even the most confident civilizations. Inside the council chambers, the atmosphere shifted from confusion to fear. Delegates began to raise accusations, some pointing fingers at other civilizations. "This is a trap," one shouted. "Surely Earth has allied with someone we don't know. This disappearance must mean an attack." Others attempted to calm the room, but their voices were drowned out by the growing panic. The galaxy had not seen anything like this before, and no one knew what to do. Outside the chamber, Young delegates whispered nervously to one another. Many had once mocked humans, assuming they were a minor, harmless species. Now, however, their laughter had faded. The calculated disappearance of Earth's fleets was not just unexpected. It was impossible by conventional standards. Some began to question what they had been taught about humans, realizing that the species they had underestimated could not be understood with old assumptions. Even the most experienced members of the council were uneasy. These were beings who had seen empires rise and fall, wars start and end, and species overreach themselves. They had dealt with threats that seemed insurmountable. Yet the disappearance of humanity's fleets had unsettled them in a way that nothing else had. Humans were not attacking. Humans were not signaling. Humans had simply disappeared, and that was enough to make the galaxy question its own confidence. As the hours passed, the council convened emergency meetings. Every department, every intelligence agency, every fleet command was consulted. Maps of the stars were examined repeatedly, every sensor recalibrated, every prediction re-evaluated. Fleet commanders considered potential human strategies. Could this be a prelude to war? Could Earth be hiding secret weapons? Every scenario was worse than the last. The galaxy had expected a predictable species, and now that expectation had been shattered. Some delegates proposed immediate strikes against human colonies, fearing the unknown. Others suggested forming defensive alliances, pooling fleets to counter an invisible threat. Still, no one knew where the humans were, making all plans tentative at best. Each suggestion carried uncertainty, and uncertainty bred tension. The council had never faced a situation where they could not see the enemy, and yet they were certain that the humans could not be ignored. Meanwhile, humans remained calm. Across hidden coordinates and secret bases, crews carried out routine checks, simulations, and maintenance. Pilots ran through maneuvers, engineers checked propulsion and shield systems, and commanders reviewed strategies. No alarms rang. No urgency broke the quiet discipline. The humans knew exactly what they were doing, why they were doing it, and when the time for revelation would come. The calmness of humanity contrasted sharply with the chaos elsewhere. While other species panicked and argued, humans operated with quiet confidence. Every movement had been planned, every contingency prepared, every fleet accounted for. They did not need the galaxy to see them or to understand them. Their work was not for recognition, it was for readiness. Speculation among the council grew wild. Some proposed that humans had discovered a form of cloaking technology beyond anything known. Others suggested that they had mastered faster than light, movement that made tracking impossible. A few even whispered about alliances with unknown civilizations or hidden weapons. Every theory was more improbable than the last, but the disappearance of the fleets demanded explanation. No one could ignore it. The irony was not lost on the humans themselves. For centuries, they had been underestimated, mocked, and dismissed. And now, without a single shot fired, they had forced the galaxy to confront the possibility that their quiet preparation had been far more effective than any boastful display could ever be. The fleet's absence was itself a demonstration, a proof that planning, discipline, and coordination could surpass size, aggression, and arrogance. As the council debated, humans continued to monitor reactions carefully. Every message, every fleet movement, every nervous whisper across communications networks was recorded. They were learning how the galaxy thought, how it reacted to uncertainty, and how quickly fear spread when confidence was broken. In effect, the humans were observing without being seen, turning the panic of others into intelligence for the future. In the council chambers, fear slowly replaced mockery. Delegates who had once laughed at humans now wondered whether their assumptions had been catastrophic. Could a species so small, so underestimated, have truly become capable of movements and coordination that no one could track? The idea alone sent shivers through the assembly. Older, wiser delegates began to recognize the pattern. Humans had always been underestimated, and yet they had survived, thrived, and now revealed a capability that no one had expected. Some species attempted to organize fleets, sending ships to the last known positions of human vessels. Others tried to scan deeper into hidden sectors, searching for anomalies or energy fluctuations. Yet every attempt ended in failure. It was as if humanity had disappeared completely, yet the truth was far more deliberate. The humans had not vanished, they had positioned themselves exactly where they wanted, invisible to every sensor, untouchable by every known tracking system. As night fell across distant systems, tension in the council reached a fever pitch. Delegates argued loudly, some calling for immediate retaliation, others pleading for caution. The galaxy was divided, uncertain, and afraid. Humans, by contrast, remained calm in their hidden positions, executing their routines as if nothing had changed. Every crew member knew the stakes, and every individual moved with precision. This was not chaos disguised as order. It was preparation perfected over decades. The contrast between human calm and galactic panic was striking. The galaxy had assumed humans were insignificant, and that assumption had shaped every decision they had made for centuries. Now, that assumption had been shattered, and the result was fear, confusion, and hesitation. The very fact that humans had disappeared without notice proved a lesson that could not be ignored. Underestimating a species that is patient, disciplined, and prepared could be fatal. Even in their hidden locations, humans understood the significance of the Council's reaction. They did not gloat. They did not send messages to boast. Instead, they observed, recorded, and refined their understanding of how the galaxy thought. Every fear, every overreaction, every miscalculation was noted and stored. When the time came to act or to reveal themselves fully, humans would know exactly how the galaxy would respond. By the end of the day, delegates grew exhausted from the endless speculation and coordination. Many retreated to consult with their advisors or to secure their fleets against imagined attacks. The council chambers, once loud with debate, grew quieter, but tension remained thick. No one could fully relax, and no one knew what the humans had planned. Humanity's silence had become more powerful than any words or threats could have been. Humans, meanwhile, prepared for the next phase. Their fleets were aligned, their colonies secured, and every crew member ready for any scenario. They had not attacked, they had not threatened, but the galaxy had been forced to see them differently. The small, underestimated species had used patience, intelligence, and preparation to seize control of the narrative without firing a single shot. The contrast could not have been more obvious. Chaos in the council, quiet determination in human fleets. Delegates debated, argued, and panicked, while humans quietly perfected their systems, refined their strategies, and waited. The galaxy had been forced to confront uncertainty, and in doing so, had revealed its own weaknesses. And so, as night fell across distant worlds and fleets continued to search for signs of humans, the species itself remained hidden, but fully prepared. The council had panicked, yes, but the humans had gained something far more valuable, the knowledge that when the time came, their preparation would give them the advantage. The galaxy had mocked humanity at the council. By the end of the day, that mocking had turned into confusion, fear, and uncertainty. The humans had done nothing more than disappear, and yet the impact was profound. They had proven that power does not always come from size, weapons, or appearances. Sometimes power comes from preparation, patience. While the galaxy panicked over the sudden disappearance of humanity's fleets, the humans themselves remained quiet and focused. Hidden in secret coordinates that no sensors could detect, fleets and colonies operated with calm precision. For centuries, humans had prepared for moments like this, and now that preparation was being revealed in its silent form. But what the galaxy did not yet see was the true extent of what humanity had been building in secret far from the council worlds. In systems uncharted by most civilizations, humans had established hidden stations, research hubs, and fortified hangars. These facilities were shielded, not just physically, but technologically, masked by energy fields, gravitational anomalies, and the careful manipulation of sensors. Every station was linked through encrypted communication channels, invisible to even the most advanced detection networks. To the galaxy, they did not exist. To humans, they were the backbone of an unprecedented fleet readiness. These hidden bases were more than simple shipyards or military installations. They were centers of innovation, where engineers, scientists, and strategists worked side by side. Advanced propulsion systems were tested here, capable of moving fleets quickly across interstellar distances without detection. Energy shields that could withstand tremendous force were refined, and fleets were trained to operate in perfect synchronization. Every system had redundancy, every ship had backups, and every crew had rehearsed for countless scenarios. It was a network designed to operate seamlessly in complete secrecy. The fleets themselves were vast, far larger than the galaxy had ever realized. While the Council had seen only a fraction of humanity's forces, what had been hidden was a carefully constructed armada distributed across the secret coordinates. Each vessel had a purpose, from scouts and interceptors to carriers and command ships. The ships were designed not for show, but for functionality, efficiency, and resilience. Every hull, every engine, every weapon system had been tested under extreme conditions, ensuring that no unexpected situation could overwhelm them. Beyond ships and technology, humanity had invested in the training of its people. Pilots, engineers, and strategists had been working for decades in these hidden stations, learning not only how to operate their vessels, but how to coordinate flawlessly. They had drilled in simulations of every possible scenario: emergencies, attacks, or unexpected disruptions. Every individual knew their role, their responsibilities, and how to react instantly. Coordination was second nature. This training made the human fleets far more effective than their numbers alone would suggest. Communication was another critical aspect of the preparation. Humans had developed secure, untraceable channels that allowed them to coordinate across vast distances without detection. These systems were encrypted in ways that no known civilization could penetrate. Even the most sophisticated interception attempts would fail, leaving humans in complete control of information flow. Through this network, every fleet and base could operate as part of a single organism, moving in unison without external observation. Resource management had been another key focus. Hidden storage facilities stocked every base and fleet with energy, supplies, and materials necessary to operate independently for months. Every ship had multiple backup systems, from engines to life support, ensuring that even a catastrophic failure would not compromise the mission. Humans had learned long ago that preparation included not just technology and strategy, but the ability to endure, to persist when others could not. Humans had also built systems that allowed them to adapt to changing conditions quickly. Sensors and AI-assisted decision programs monitored the environment, fleet movements, and potential threats. These systems provided instant analysis, helping commanders make precise decisions in seconds. The combination of human judgment and technology ensured that every action was optimized for success. In essence, the hidden coordinates were a living network, constantly adjusting, preparing, and reinforcing itself. Perhaps most importantly, humans had designed their hidden infrastructure to be invisible. Every energy signature, every transmission, every movement was carefully masked. The fleets could operate, train, and move without detection. Even if the galaxy scanned every nearby star system, no trace would be found. This invisibility was not just for defense, it was a tool for strategy. Humans could control when, where, and how the galaxy would see them, giving them the ultimate advantage. Years of quiet work had gone into perfecting this system. Scientists had refined propulsion technologies. Engineers had constructed ships that were light but resilient, and strategists had coordinated every potential maneuver. What the galaxy saw as a small, insignificant species was actually a network capable of extraordinary precision and power. Humans had turned preparation itself into a weapon, demonstrating that intelligence, planning, and coordination could outweigh raw size or brute force. The fleet's disappearance had not been a mere trick. It had been a demonstration of this. Preparation. By moving to hidden coordinates, humans had shown the galaxy that they were capable of action beyond prediction. The fleets could appear anywhere, respond instantly, and operate in ways that others could not anticipate. For the Council and other species, this was both terrifying and humbling. They had mocked Earth, dismissed its potential, and underestimated the patience and intelligence of its people. Now, the reality was clear. Humans had been quietly preparing for a moment like this, and that preparation was complete. Even the individual humans within these hidden networks understood the significance of their work. Every engineer, pilot, and strategist felt the weight of history, knowing that decades of effort had led to this moment. They did not see themselves as warriors in the traditional sense. Instead, they understood that intelligence, coordination, and discipline were the greatest weapons they possessed. Every movement, every calculation, every hidden deployment was part of a larger plan, designed to demonstrate that humanity's true strength was not in size, but in preparation and unity. The hidden bases. Humans also focused on innovation. Projects that seemed impossible years ago were now operational. Systems for long-distance navigation, energy generation, and fleet coordination exceeded what any other civilization could claim. Every project was tested rigorously, refined constantly, and integrated into the network. Humans had taken what others might see as limitations, size, isolation, modest fleets, and turned them into advantages through careful design, ingenuity, and relentless practice. Psychological preparation was just as important as technological. Humans trained themselves to remain calm under pressure, to act decisively even when faced with uncertainty, and to trust in one another completely. Every crew member knew that their role mattered and that mistakes could have consequences. But this awareness did not breed fear. It bred focus, discipline, and confidence. In a universe that often judged by appearances, humans had cultivated an inner strength that made their hidden networks far more effective than any visible display of power. The hidden coordinates were not simply military installations. They were the culmination of human strategy, patience, and foresight. Everything had been built to operate quietly, efficiently, and invisibly, with the ability to emerge at precisely the right moment. Humans understood that the galaxy valued spectacle, strength, and intimidation. They had learned to turn those expectations against others, proving that silence, preparation, and discipline could be more powerful than weapons or numbers. As the galaxy speculated about the disappearance of humanity's fleets, the humans watched silently from their hidden positions. They observed panic spreading, decisions being made based on incomplete information, and assumptions being challenged. Every reaction was recorded and analyzed, not as a threat, but as intelligence. Humans had long understood the importance of observation, patience, and timing. They knew that when the moment came, they would reveal themselves on their own terms, in ways no one could anticipate. The preparation was complete. The fleets were hidden. The bases were secure. Every system, every crew, and every ship was ready. And yet, humans did not act rashly. They did not strike. They did not boast. and they did not reveal themselves unnecessarily. The galaxy was about to witness the culmination of decades of work, but it would happen according to humanity's design, not in response to fear or provocation. Hidden networks represented the true power of humanity, a combination of intelligence, coordination, and patience that no other civilization could match. The fleet's disappearance had already shaken the Council and the galaxy. But what humans had been building quietly, deliberately, and invisibly would soon demonstrate that they were no longer a species to be underestimated. And when the time came, the galaxy would see that what they had mocked as insignificance was in fact extraordinary preparation, the kind that could change the balance of power forever. The galaxy had been in chaos for days. Delegates across systems scrambled to understand what had happened to humanity's fleets. They checked sensors, recalibrated scanners, and debated strategies in endless sessions, but all led to dead ends. The humans had vanished, and no one could locate them. The uncertainty alone was shaking even the most confident civilizations. And then, without warning, the first signs appeared. Fleets that had been hidden in secret coordinates for decades began to move. Not in haste, not chaotically, but with perfect synchronization. Ships that had been invisible and silent now emerged from behind nebulae, asteroid fields, and gravitational anomalies. They moved in formations that were precise, coordinated, and impossible to ignore. In every system where humans had been dismissed, alarms now sounded. The galaxy had been forced to acknowledge a truth it had long denied. Humans were powerful, organized, and capable of action beyond imagination. The first glimpses of the fleets were enough to shock the Council. Massive vessels, sleek and heavily shielded, glided through space with a quiet authority. Smaller ships darted between them like swarming guardians, forming layers of defense and communication. Each fleet was a work of precision, a demonstration of discipline and coordination honed through decades of practice. Every detail, from the angles of the formations to the timing of movement, revealed a species that had been underestimated at its peril. Delegates tried to respond. Fleets that had previously ignored Earth were now scrambling to mobilize, but coordination proved difficult. Humans had positioned themselves in ways that leveraged terrain, stealth advantages, and timing, leaving observers unsure where the next move would come from. Sensors picked up the humans' energy emissions, but it was too late to react effectively. The advantage lay completely with the humans. What was most striking was the calmness of the human crews. Pilots and commanders moved with quiet efficiency, executing maneuvers as if they were routine exercises. There was no shouting, no panic, no overreaction. The fleets operated like a single organism, responding instantly to commands, adapting to every minor change in the environment, and maintaining flawless coordination. It was a level of precision that the galaxy had never seen before, and it stunned even the most experienced observers. Communication within the human fleets was subtle but effective. Signals were encrypted, instantaneous, and untraceable. Each vessel knew the exact position of every other ship without revealing its location to external observers. Orders were followed precisely, decisions made collaboratively, and every potential contingency had been planned for. The galaxy had assumed that humans were small, weak, and insignificant. Now, they could see that humans had prepared for every eventuality and were executing a plan with surgical precision. The council chambers erupted in debate, panic, and disbelief. Delegates argued over what actions to take, but no one had the advantage. Preconceived notions about Earth had been shattered. Those who had mocked humans now spoke in hushed tones, realizing that their assumptions had been foolish. Some older delegates, experienced in countless conflicts, exchanged worried glances, understanding that underestimating humans had been a critical mistake. As the fleets approached key points in interstellar space, humans demonstrated capabilities that went beyond sheer numbers. Energy shields flared with bursts of controlled force. Engines adjusted instantly to evade detection, and smaller vessels executed maneuvers that would have required split-second coordination. It was not brute strength that made the humans formidable. It was intelligence, preparation, and unity. Every move was calculated, every action deliberate, and every vessel part of a larger, flawless network. Observers across the galaxy were stunned. Young delegates who had once laughed at humanity now struggled to comprehend the scale of what they were witnessing. The humans had not only hidden their fleets, but had transformed those hidden assets into a force that could respond instantly, unpredictably, and effectively. In every system, in every fleet command center, alarms sounded and calculations were made. But humans had anticipated these reactions, and every movement they made was part of a larger strategy that the galaxy could not yet see in full. Even without firing a single weapon, humanity had demonstrated dominance. The fleet's mere presence, their organization, and their precision conveyed a message that words could never express. Underestimate humans at your own peril. Civilizations that had assumed superiority were forced to recognize a truth that had been invisible for centuries. Humans were not just surviving, they were thriving, and they were prepared to act decisively when necessary. The Council struggled to regain control. Fleets were ordered to intercept, to monitor, to defend. Yet no interception succeeded. Human fleets anticipated movement patterns, used hidden routes, and adjusted formations faster than any known tactical algorithms could predict. It became clear that this was not the work of impulsive action. It was the execution of decades of careful preparation. Humans had turned patience into power, discipline into strength, and strategy into dominance. Some species began to panic openly. They feared that humans might attack, even though no aggressive action had been taken. Messages were sent, warnings issued, and alliances considered. But humans did not respond with hostility. Their movement was a demonstration, not a threat. It was a subtle but undeniable proof that they had mastered control over space, fleets, and coordination in ways no one had anticipated. The galaxy had learned, too late, that humans were not what they seemed. Within the human ranks, crews maintained calm and focus. Commanders issued orders with clarity and precision. Navigators calculated positions instantly, and engineers monitored systems with quiet diligence. There was no chaos, no confusion, only execution. Humans had trained for this moment for decades, and now their preparation was paying off. Every crew member knew their role, and every ship functioned as part of a living network. The psychological effect on other civilizations was profound. Fear, respect, and uncertainty spread rapidly. Delegates who had once mocked humans now spoke cautiously, aware that their assumptions had been dangerously wrong. The disappearance had already caused confusion. The fleet's reemergence brought clarity to their strength. Humanity had demonstrated that size, visibility, and past insignificance were irrelevant when intelligence, preparation, and unity were applied. The human fleets moved with purpose, but without haste. Their mission was not destruction, it was demonstration. Every ship, every maneuver, every formation was designed to show that humans had been underestimated for centuries. And as the Council watched, they realized that the species they had mocked had transformed itself into a force that could not be ignored, questioned, or underestimated. Some fleets attempted to shadow the humans, hoping to learn, to respond, or to block their movements. But humans were always ahead, anticipating responses, using hidden paths, and coordinating flawlessly. Observers realized that this was more than military capability. It was a demonstration of strategic genius. Humans had prepared not just to survive, but to dominate through intelligence and discipline. For hours, the galaxy witnessed the demonstration. Humans moved in calculated patterns, tested coordination, and revealed their hidden capacity without aggression. Every civilization watching had to adjust its understanding of humans. The species that had once been mocked as small and insignificant had revealed itself as capable, organized, and intelligent beyond expectation. By the time the sun rose on distant systems, the council had no choice but to acknowledge the truth. Humans were not just present, they were powerful, precise, and prepared. The fleets had returned, not with weapons drawn, but with a message that could not be ignored: underestimate humans at your own peril. The quiet, disciplined, and deliberate preparation of decades had made them a force the galaxy could not ignore. And in the hidden command centers of humanity, crews continued their routines. No celebrations were needed, no boasting occurred. The demonstration had been enough. The galaxy now understood that humans were not what they had appeared to be. They were patient, intelligent, disciplined, and capable of precision beyond imagination. Humanity had revealed its strength, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again.